Okay, now I can finally talk about what I want to talk about without getting distracted. So I was inspired to make this video because I commented on a video, I believe it was Glenn Beck, talking about Ilhan Omar, and I love Glenn Beck. To me, Glenn Beck is a prophetic voice in the wilderness. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's the best talk show host we have today. I know he's not as popular as he used to be because he didn't jump right on the bandwagon for President Trump, but now he supports the president, and I think he was right in the way he approached it. And a lot of the popular talk show hosts have a similar approach. Ben Shapiro still doesn't seem to like President Trump that much, to be honest. I'm not as much of a fan of Ben Shapiro, though. And it's interesting, you would think, a kid my age with a yarmulke, that should be perfect. And, I'm much more impressed. And I don't dislike Ben Shapiro. I just, when I listen to Glenn Beck, I feel like I'm listening to Jeremiah or Ezekiel. And even though it's a totally different religion with a different theology, but what he's saying is so important. And I'm really a big fan of Glenn Beck. I don't listen to him all the time, but I'm like in awe of him. Kind of like, really, I'm more in awe of Glenn Beck than I am of Bishop Fulton Sheen, but I'm a big fan of Bishop Fulton Sheen. Again, a different religion, disagree on religion, can still respect the person. And the reason why I'm saying this is what I really want to talk about here. Now, Glenn Beck, in his discussions about Ilhan Omar, has not been attacking Islam. Now, I know he wrote a book. It is about Islam. I never read the book. I don't know really what the basic idea of the book is either. And I probably would disagree with him on certain aspects of that book. And I don't have to agree with, just like I don't agree with him on his religion, I don't agree with him on everything that he believes politically. And, he was dead set against voting for Trump. He was mad at Ted Cruz for deciding to eventually support Trump. And I could not bring myself to vote for anybody but Donald Trump. He voted for like some third-party candidate, Constitution Party or something, which if it was anybody else but Hillary Clinton running, I probably would have voted for them. But because Hillary Clinton was so bad, I had to vote for Trump. Not because I like Trump, but just to vote against Hillary, not to throw a vote away. If it was, I almost felt that if it would have been Bernie Sanders, and I said this, if it would have been Bernie Sanders against Trump, I would have seen them as even, and I would have voted third party. But but Donald Trump was a pleasant surprise. He is a pleasant surprise, and he's doing an incredibly good job. And the evil media is just really being the enemy of the people. Not the enemy of the president, but the enemy of the people. And the Democratic Party is being the enemy of the people. And here we have this issue here with Ilhan Omar, who has a lot of issues. And the one thing I've constantly been saying about Ilhan Omar is that she's not a real Muslim. She's hiding behind her hijab. Now, you could say, Joe Kolakowski, you're hiding behind your strimal, your beard and payas, because you watch movies, and so you're a hypocrite. And it's true to a certain extent, but I'm not. First of all, there's a lot of people who do that, but that's neither here. That's not a justification. I admit, it's not what our community does. It's not exactly sin. It's just what we don't do. And I just am who I am. I don't claim to represent anybody else. That's why, someone said, are you a Satmar Chassid? No, I'm not a Satmar Chassid. That's why I wear a tall hat, because I don't want to be representing something that I'm not. And I applaud Ilhan Omar for wearing her hijab in the Congress. I think the House did the right thing, changing their rules to allow her to do that. But as I've said before, she has to learn gratitude for that. Meaning, Joe Lieberman didn't insist that the Senate change the rules to let him wear a yarmulke. He just didn't wear a yarmulke, and that's his thing. Not going to argue right, wrong. That's Joe Lieberman. But I posted on Twitter a video from YouTube. Gene Autry was singing a song, "Don't Bite the Hand That Feeds You." You have to appreciate America and love America, and I really believe that Ilhan Omar hates America. But not only her, but all of her mentors in the Democrat Party. But more than that is that all of the ideas of the Democrat Party run counter to Islam. Everything that they teach is haram. Just like it's asur in Judaism, just like it's sin in Christianity, it's haram in Islam. And how can any self-respecting Muslim who takes their religion seriously vote Democrat? I don't understand. And the only reason could be is because they bought the lies that Republicans are all racist, which is not true. The Republican Party is the party that freed the slaves. Now maybe the the Muslims are upset about that. That's a different story, but we'll put that aside. Maybe that's what they have in common, but I'm not going to say that. And because the fact of the matter is, Judaism doesn't consider slavery to be sin. It just considers it has to be done in the proper way, and the way it was done was not the proper way. But there were Jewish people in the old days who followed the rules of Evan Kanani, Hilchos Avadim, and actually, just like Christian slave owners baptized their slaves, Jewish slave owners, the ones who were religious, probably, I don't know how common that was and how religious people were and how knowledgeable they were, but they probably, circumcised them, put them in the mikveh, and they had to keep Shabbos and kosher and everything. And this is a historical fact. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. And the same thing, many Native American tribes owned slaves. And so now, especially the Cherokee tribe, you have a lot of African Americans who are members of the Cherokee Nation because their ancestors were enslaved to the Cherokee Nation, and so they're to members of the Cherokee Nation. So when they were emancipated, they became full citizens of this Cherokee Nation, and the same ideology in Judaism. When you emancipated your slaves, they became full converts to Judaism, and they had to put them to fill in and everything else. I'm not saying right or wrong there. It was a different time, and times do change. Are there some Muslims who still practice slavery today? Yes, that's where slavery exists today. Legally, is in the Islamic world. But the thing is, I would say the majority of Muslims who come to America or who are born in America who are Americans oppose slavery. Just like all Jews oppose slavery. There are no Jews who are saying we have to bring back the idea of the Evan Kanani. So nobody says that. Nobody says that we have to bring back Canaanite slavery. So back to that though. So Muslims in America are different than Muslims in Saudi Arabia or Pakistan or Afghanistan. They're American Muslims. They're Muslim Americans. They're Americans of the Islamic faith. Now, are there some extremists who don't subscribe to the ideas of America? Yes, but they're very few and far between in America. Other countries, it's different. But in America, Islam is fairly moderate. And that's what I want to bring up here. It's nothing about Glenn Beck. It's about the commentators on the video. Because those who were commenting on the video were suggesting that Ilhan Omar is some kind of fifth column. There was suggestions that, she would have been stoned if she wasn't the fifth column to infiltrate the American Congress, and that there's some bigger conspiracy and all kinds of ridiculous nonsense that are just totally not true, and the truth is she's not a very good Muslim. I mean, if she's committing adultery, she's liable to the death penalty according to their religion, just like it is in Jewish religion. The only difference is that we don't practice the death penalty. There's no Jewish community in the world that practices death penalty today for adultery. And it hasn't been like that for 2,000 years. We haven't had death penalty for over 2,000 years. But when we had it. But again, it was very rare. It was almost never used. It was, the rabbis said, it shouldn't be used, essentially. We should try to find some way to not find someone guilty of the death penalty. But it remains the fact that if someone commits that sin, they're liable to the death penalty in a metaphysical way, however you want to interpret that, or kares, or whatever it is, just like breaking the Sabbath and so forth. And again, we're not executing people for that. In the Islamic world, even to today, they do. So, I don't know if they do that in Somalia. I don't think they do, but in some countries they do. And that's their society, that's their culture, and it's not that different from ours, where we came from. And but the difference is, though, like I said, Rabbinical Judaism has always had a very cautious and generally negative view of the death penalty, even though it's in the Bible. Meaning it's seen as something that should be just on the books as a deterrent and very, very rarely sparingly used. Pretty much that's the meaning. It should not be abolished, but it shouldn't be used. It's pretty much the Talmudic approach to the death penalty, which is the same approach that Jesus had. He who was without sin cast the first stone. His statement is a totally rabbinical statement, 1,000%. And I didn't understand that when I was a kid, hearing that, because I used to say when I was a kid, and in history class, the history teacher, who was a football coach first, a Sunday school teacher second, and he happened to also teach history, right, in junior high in public school, and he would bring this up over and over again, the story of he was without sin, and the way he would say it is like, Jesus, he showed those Jews. He actually said that, and we had 7 kids in the class, and 3 of them were Jewish, and we didn't cry, we didn't whine, we didn't complain, we didn't sue him, we weren't, and this was in the 90s. We were pretty advanced, but we didn't need our safe space. We didn't call, and because he's not an anti-Semite, he was just an old guy, and I didn't consider him to be an anti-Semite. It was a little annoying to hear. It was a little uncomfortable, yeah, but part of life is being uncomfortable. But nowadays he would get arrested for saying something like that. He would definitely lose his job. And he would say it time and time again. He would just, and like, he was so excited. He's like, oh, Jesus, he showed those Jews. That was that was our he was a farmer also. So maybe he would, I think he was a football coach first, a farmer second, a Sunday school teacher third, and a history teacher fourth in what he cared about. But but we dealt with it. We were able to deal with it. But anyway, I don't know enough about Islam to say, how people view this, but I know it's the same thing. You need witnesses, and witnesses need to have a certain level of piety, and so I'm pretty sure I've heard that there are certain schools of Islamic thought that, pretty much would teach that, the death penalty religiously is very hard to administer, and the way that things are done in certain countries in the Islamic world are not the way that it's understood in other parts of the Islamic world. They're not going to say that those who perhaps are more strict or more extremist are not true Muslims, the way that the extremists would say that those who are lenient are not true Muslims. But it's a complicated issue. But it was a complicated issue, just like I described, with Christians and Jews and Muslims and Native Americans and everybody else, with the slavery issue, with a lot of other issues, and we managed to go over it. The point that I just want to bring up is essentially we are shooting ourselves in the foot by the way we deal with Islam as Americans, meaning as conservative Americans, because Muslims should be obvious allies to conservative Christians and to Orthodox Jews who have conservative politics. I have to say that because people get confused because there's a liberal movement that calls itself conservative Judaism. Most Christians are pretty much okay with Jews. This is how I'm going to explain it. Now, part of it is, well, they're the chosen people, and yes, scripturally, we have more in common, Jews and Christians, than Jews or Christians have with Muslims. However, in other ways, outside of the scripture issue, the Jews and the Muslims have more in common than the Jews have with the Christians. But we're able to live together and not, say that pretty much, and we can disagree, and it's fine. I don't care that the history teacher said that Jesus showed those Jews. It doesn't bother me because that's his religion. He has the right to his religion. And it doesn't bother me. I mean, I don't think it's a reason for him to get fired. Certainly not, Did it sting a little? Yeah, but that's part of life. You got to learn to live with things that are not comfortable. But what am I bringing out here? It's, we can learn to live together with Hindus and Buddhists and Sikhs and everybody else. We don't have to make Muslims the bad guys. And I include in that pious, religious Muslims who pray 5 times a day, who eat only halal food, who, whatever. I'm trying to think what else, they fast on Ramadan, they give their charity, their alms, their zakat, they study the Quran, they recite the Quran. There's no reason for anyone in America to feel threatened by Muslims like that. They're not hurting anybody. Yes, of course, if somebody's an extremist, a terrorist. Doesn't matter what their religion is. We all Americans should have a problem with terrorists, and even if they're whatever they are, they're atheists, whatever they are. If they're terrorists, that's a problem. We don't like terrorists. It's illegal to be a terrorist. Terrorists belong in prison. But if somebody's just practicing their religion, it's not a threat to you that they're eating halal food. It's not a threat to you that even in the public school that they have prayers during Ramadan. In fact, you should see that not as a threat, but as an opportunity. Because if the Muslims could get the prayers in the public school during Ramadan, maybe the Christians could get something along those lines. If Christian students want to express themselves that way. See that as an opportunity, not as a threat. And like I said from the beginning, all of the ideals of the Democrat Party are forbidden in Islam. So the only reason why many Muslims are Democrats, although there are a lot of Muslims that are Republicans, more than you could imagine. But why are there so many Muslim Democrats is because the Republican Party isn't doing enough work to attract them. We should be saying to the Muslim community, that they are, they should be Republicans. They all of their values fit, and instead of, saying, oh, we don't need them or whatever, or however people are approaching that, hello, we have to, and we should, Christians should learn to look at Muslims the way they look at Orthodox Jews. I think that's the answer. Meaning, do you have a problem with Zudi Jasser? Do you have a problem with the Imam of Peace? These people are respected in the politically conservative American landscape. So, we should be working on trying to build those bridges to create a politically conservative Muslim coalition. Just like there's the Republican Jewish coalition, someone has to start the Republican Muslim coalition, just like there's a Republican Jewish coalition. See the things that we have, in common, because the threats to religious freedom that Christians are facing, Muslims are facing too, and Jews are facing too. It's gonna, eventually, if a Christian is being sued for not wanting to bake a cake, what's to stop a Muslim from being sued for not wanting to bake a ham? It's true. So we have to build these coalitions. We have to build these bridges, not knock them down, not just be dismissive. I mean, if we want to see someone, defeat Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib, the obvious answer would be to find a politically conservative Muslim, even Muslim woman. Again, we're not into the identity politics as much in the Republican Party because we're more about the individual. But we have to play their game too, and we can't let the Democrats get away with this. With Meaning to the Democrats, oh, Donald Trump is racist because he disagrees with the policies of the squad. No. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with the policies. It has to do with their total incompetence and utter arrogance, especially from AOC. Her arrogance is sickening. That she could say that we're the best generation ever that ever existed and we're better than the old generation. And I see a lot of people say like that. And that comes from a Darwinian mindset that looks at the previous generation as monkeys. Or one step closer to monkeys, or our common ancestor with the monkeys. And that's a big problem. Whereas someone who believes in the Bible is going to look at very least, that you're one step closer to Moses. The people who stood at Mount Sinai, the prophets. That the old days, these people were greater than they are today, and the idea that we have in Judaism, if you read as Hadoros, that the generations get worse and worse as time goes by, and they go lower and lower. So, and that goes along again with the more conservative mindset. So, respecting your elders and things like that. I mean, this AOC, she has zero respect for her elders. Zero respect for her elders. So, and this is what we have to work on. Finding, primary challengers also. Because in AOC's district, only a Democrat's going to win. We need someone to defeat her in the primary, because a Republican's not going to defeat her in the general election. It's a waste of time to support a Republican in that. So we just have to find a moderate Democrat, maybe a moderate Democrat who can play her game, who checks off all the boxes, maybe even more boxes. You want to bring this inside, Shlomi?
Of course.
All right, thank you. So thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Don't drag it. Pick it up. Use 2 hands. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. And we'll see you later. Thank you. Take care.